Welcome to today's podcast. Today I'm here with Mickey Baldwin, who is the sitting mayor for the city of Okmulgee.
That's right.
And you are running for re-election.
Yes. So I've been on the council since 2018 and has served Ward 2. And then I was re-elected back to that board, to the council, to that ward. And then when the mayor stepped down, I was serving as vice mayor, and I finished out his term, and then was appointed at the beginning of the next term, since he had already won the election moving into that year. So I have served one full term now, and looking to continue so that we might complete some projects and just help navigate as we will probably have some changes moving forward.
Right. So you have started some projects that you would like to complete?
Yeah, so there's things going on in our community that still needs, I just would like to say that I did my best and that our council was able to achieve some of those goals.
Right. So when you decided to go into, call it politics or being a servant of the community, I know you are a pastor, minister, right?
Yes, I came here in 2014 to pastor a church called Cornerstone Foursquare. We're located just north of Holloman's on Oklahoma Avenue there in Okmulgee. And that was really our primary focus. The Lord just, I felt like He was just telling us to come and make a difference. And so probably one of the areas that we've been able to make, I think, a great difference, and that is we became foster parents and
Right.
began to foster some children. And we weren't really going to adopt. We figured we would try to foster as many children as we could and just help them through those hard times. But in the process, we adopted 2 young ladies. We've had them now for about 8 years or more. And that's been probably one of our greatest takeaway. So
Right.
if we can say we did anything in Okmulgee is hopefully we've been very supportive with quite a few children in our community. But then the opportunity arose for me to serve for Ward 2, to be a
Right.
representative on the council. And I brought that to our church, and our council said, yeah, that's okay.
Right.
And so it's been good to represent people. That's pretty much what I want to do as a pastor. And I've been on quite a few doorsteps and talk with people to be able to share their concerns, back to the council.
Right. What's really motivating you to do this? Because from what I understand, it is not for financial reasons at all. The mayor doesn't earn a whole lot of money.
No, we get 1 bottle of water at each council meeting. So that's a little bit of a joke, but usually they provide us a small bottle that for us to drink. But no, it's not a financial piece. It's really about connecting with people. In our charter, it says that the mayor is actually, my title is councilman at large. And then they throw in the title known as the mayor. And my number one job is really to be that ceremonial representation of Okmulgee in many different aspects. But with that, I do have the ability to represent people, and sometimes I'll take a tour of a business or those kinds of things, come to your home, listen to a situation, and report that accordingly. Try to teach people how government works and how that happens in Okmulgee. Sometimes, because I do have some small resources,
Right.
sometimes we're able to maybe help those individuals. We had one lady that had during one of our first floods, I forget what year that was, if it was 2019 or 2000, maybe it's 2001, or 21. But her house was just wet, and so I was able to borrow some carpet fans,
Right.
and we were able to get those into her house and dry her floor out.
Right.
So that wasn't really necessarily as a mayor of the community, but just because I had a connection, and that's just what we do at our church, is try to help people.
Right. Is there anything that you can highlight for me about your past 3 years? Any achievement that you are proud of, or?
Well, I think I often say is people say, well, what have you achieved? And my first response, Shell, is, it's a council,
Right.
and we've had some incredible city managers, and we have a staff that is, I think, really above board. People who are really good in their fields, and they have kept us moving forward year after year. So when I talk about some of those achievements, maybe it's under my term, but it's what we've achieved. But one of the very first things I did in becoming mayor was to sign my name to, I think it was $1.2 million contract to put in new water mains and lines in 3 different neighborhoods. And that is always going to be the case. We're an aging city. So there's lots as far as infrastructure to get done. And some of that, it just costs lots of money. We did get now it wasn't under my term, but it was just before me, while I was serving as councilman for Ward 2.
Right.
We did get the new water tower up. And that is just a great benefit to our community,
Right.
having that
Yeah,
million gallons.
I was just going to ask that. We understand that Okmulgee is an aging city and an aging community. How do you see yourself, or the team, or whatever you want to call it, handling the infrastructure needs that are coming up in the next few years?
So we've constantly budgeted funds to help with that. Our team is really good about seeking out grants to help us. Some of those grants are there because we've applied for other things, like the hazardous mitigation plan. We put that in effect in August of this past year. Because we did that and submitted that and got that approved, it will set us in good light, to be able to apply for other grants. So we have continued to rebuild some of that infrastructure for water. And then we also have our waste department, our landfill. We took that back, and now it's the city is running that. There will be a new cell we may open in the next 5 years or so, but it's been really good work with our city managers to be able to think ahead and plan ahead. And so when we get to closing that cell and opening the new one, we've been putting money back so that when that comes, we won't have to put up all of the cost.
Right.
We may, out of over $1 million, we may have 800 or close to $1 million. So that will help us open that next cell and be ready, so it's not quite a financial hit to our community.
Right. Yeah. Okay, there's a lot of other things, public safety. Is there any concerns there in Okmulgee? I know we have a lot of community here. They are, how should I explain it? They're hit by a lot of crimes, drugs, and other things. How is Okmulgee dealing with that in cooperation with?
Well, because we have our police force, and then we also have Creek Nation with the Light Horse. over the years, the criminals have used that against us because they might get arrested by one of the two and then not able to prosecute. But in this past year, we were able to put together, activate our cross step with Creek Nation. And so now we have two chiefs who are really working together. That's Chief Owens and then also Chief Phillips of Light Horse. That's been incredible. And I've actually spoke with some of the officers of Light Horse, and they just brag about how seamless that is. Because now if you're pulled over for a traffic violation, whether it's Creek Nation, Light Horse, or if it's a local PD, you're going to get a ticket. You're just going to pay it in a different place. So if you're an Okmulgee citizen, you're going to pay that downtown. If you're a Creek Nation citizen, you're going to pay that back at the Creek Nation.
All right. So the areas cross over. So whoever the police officer, whatever department he belongs to, is the.
Yeah, the AG for a Creek Nation. She said all those officers have to do is turn their hat around. You know, they may be. Light Horse. Yeah. When they pull you over and you're an Okmulgee citizen, they're turning their hat around and now they're writing that ticket as if they are, a local PD. Right. So, in speaking with our own police chief, Owens, he says, we have probably our thumb on crime so much better. It's decreased in many areas. Right. There is always a concern among the minors who sometimes are, pilfering through cars at night and doing some things like that because that's a different process of arresting and whatnot. But we have really, I think, come on board. And when I see officers called out now, many times there's a Light Horse officer there, right, and a local PD officer there, and so they're communicating and doing really well.
Okay. Another thing that I think is important to a lot of people is the small business infrastructure or how a small business can operate there. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I do. I've often said that Okmulgee is Destination Hope because it's a great place to restart. We have 3 higher education. We have the Career Tech, OSU IT, and we have the Muskogee Creek Nation Business College. Right. People can come there and in all of those get grants to be able to go to school, get re-educated, and we still have the ability for people to get those jobs. I know we need a workforce that wants to work, and so that's been a difficult thing coming out of COVID. But people are starting to get those jobs. We don't always have maybe all of the housing we need, and that's a concern of mine moving forward. As last year, I led a task force on the unhoused and the homeless, and we definitely targeted the fact that we need a way for those who want to, which might be about 20% of that demographic, that might want to actually live in a small home, right, and try to start over again. Others, that just may be their way of life, and they're here for a while and then they're gone. But that 20%, we definitely would like to see if we could target those. And we do have agencies in our community. Deep Fork has been a huge proponent, to try to get housing, some kind of shelter for those who are unhoused. We have a very active homeless shelter. It's gone through some different changes over the last year or so, but they've been good. When I spoke with their interim director, Rosie Lynch a while back. She mentioned that they have a high rate of people. I want to say it was close to. I want to say it was 87%, but maybe I'm wrong. She could definitely correct me. But there's a high percent that they're employed or they're going through classes with workforce. They're getting their training that they need, getting identification, some of them, and then getting those people to move on with housing. So they're doing a great job, and I understand they're about to make some improvements still.
Yeah.
So that's exciting too. So moving forward in housing, we have been working on this as a council, and Brian Dudley, who is one of our staff members who heads up the zoning committee.
All right.
He wrote new changes among the ordinances so that on some of our small lots where we've tore down old houses that were abandoned, which we tear down about 30 homes or more every year. We've increased that budget to clean up some of those areas, so there's not a safety
Are those
risk.
basically abandoned homes where people at one point lost their jobs and there was nothing here and they just abandoned it?
Some of them are abandoned. Some of them just became too unsafe to live in. Some caught on fire. And there's an assortment of reasons. But we've taken those down, and some of the lots were just too small to build a new house on.
Right.
So Brian took a real good initiative and wrote new ordinances that would still be safe with safe margins for easements, and so now we have ordinances that I believe it starts at maybe 550 square feet.
Right.
So that's a pretty good little house, and it's good for like one or two people to live in. Maybe not for a family of four, but it's a great place to start, and hopefully we can get those built, have some contractors that will build those homes. I've encouraged people not to call them tiny homes because when I think of tiny homes, and probably you do too, watching Pinterest, you know what I'm saying, is they take an 8-foot wide storage building that's 12 or 16 foot long.
Right.
And then they build a loft in it, and it's just like you just turn and you're able to cook and do these kinds of things. That's not what we want in Okmulgee, and that design is against our ordinances.
Right.
So, but 550 square feet is a nice little house that people can get into and start over.
Right.
And pay, hopefully it won't be extravagant as far as costs, and they'll be able to work and still be able to pay their bills and whatnot. So we're looking at that, and I know that Deep Fork is looking at putting in a colony of those kinds of homes. So we'll see what that looks like moving forward in the next couple of years.
Yeah. Let's see. We touched on housing. I got a few things here, but when we talk, you get into the subjects.
Oh yeah, I apologize for that.
No, it's
some
okay.
of them just kind of
it's okay.
overlap.
That's why we have these little. I call them not interviews, more like a chat.
Okay.
Sit down and
Very
have
good.
talking stuff. Fiscal responsibility. How do you see the city budget? What do you see are the problems? Income for the city, taxation, all that. Is there anything you want to?
So we have about almost any given year, for the most part, a round number is about $30 million.
Right.
And that is budgeted for everything that we need to do. Some things come up because we might have an issue with maybe a broken water main or some kind of situation. But for the most part, that sales tax that we get, it's just enough for us to break over. We may have a little bit money rolling over at the end of the year, but it's not significant. It's enough for us to plan for the next year.
Right.
So our budget is really just that. It's an expectation of what those funds are. So we would love to be able to do more, but without those tax dollars coming in, we can't really project more. Now, by mid-year, we kind of can see if we're ahead of the game or slightly behind. So when Main Street and Chamber of Commerce, when they talk about shopping at home, that's what makes the difference. So for us to be able to buy our goods here, buy our gas here, all those kinds of things are really important.
Yeah, that's an interesting factor. How is the city affected by companies like Amazon and a lot of these companies from outside?
Yes.
Do they pay sales tax into the community as well?
So there is a excise tax that is collected on home shopping, if you might want to call it that.
Yeah.
And that money does come back to the city. And so it's not it's not the same rate, if I understand right. We don't get as much of it, I believe I have that right. But when you think about the pennies that are paid on a dollar, the city, if I understand right, we only get about 4 of those pennies, and 2 of them are already designated.
Right.
So the more that we can also pay off our debts, that really helps us. Now, when Tom Giuliani was our city manager, he helped us rethink and refinance a huge water debt that we had.
Right.
I believe it was water. And in doing so, we saved over $700,000. Now that's significant.
It is.
That was
It is.
that was interest that we would have had to have paid, and so we were able to lock that in to a different loan, and as a result of it, well, that's great.
Right.
So the more we can live within our means, which I know for American people, maybe that's difficult.
Right.
But that's where we've got to be, is living within our means and being able to not just say, well, we'll never get better. No, I don't think that's the case. I think every year we have potential. And it's not just the sales tax. We also have, people who give of their time and efforts, and I love that. So this past couple of years, we've been paying, we've kicked up the pay of our officers and our employees, and so we want to always respect the work that people do.
Right.
I know we easily want people to protect us as the police officers, and we want the firemen to help put out the fires, right?
Yeah.
But I think all of us would say we also want the trash taken out too. If we don't have people taking the trash and paying for that, then that would set our city up for disease and spread of germs, and so it's all important. Every one of our employees is important, and so we really, I really think highly of all of those people who have worked so many years here on staff with our city. I know we gave away some special significant certificates for people who are retiring, even just at the end of the year, and it's just great how people have committed themselves to helping our community.
Right. Yeah, that's good. Anything going on in Okmulgee with recreational parks and other things that you're working on?
I'm glad you brought that up. One thing that I tried to do at the very beginning of my this past term, was to re-energize the park and recreation board. And we got it going, and I was really excited about it. We had some incredible people serving on that board. We had a couple of younger, a couple of older. We had people who knew the city well. But it was a little bit short-lived as our chair left, and then one of the board members had to resign, and so we weren't able to really we didn't really achieve some of the goals that I really had put before them. So that's one of those areas I want to improve on moving forward, providing that I would be elected on this next Tuesday on the 11th.
Right.
Is I'd like to.
We're getting really close to the election.
Yeah,
right?
it's just a few days away.
So that's in this little chat we have here, I normally tell the voters, there's a tendency, I think, in the voter base to not really pay attention to these small little elections that we have, the special election going on for District 8 and now and there's a couple of other ones too, if I remember correct. But these are, in my view, what's your opinion on that? In my view, they're equally important as a general regular election.
Yeah, I think it's one of our rights as citizens. If we want to really voice our opinion, we need to get out and vote. I know we could say, well, school board isn't all that important. I'm not going to go down and cast my vote.
Oh, yeah, it is important.
But it is an important piece. Our commissioners, I attend frequently. I don't make all of them, but I try to attend the commissioners' meetings on Monday morning. And it's incredible what they're doing with so little funds. And that's District 1 that I believe has Dr. Eric Zollner had left, and his deputy commissioner, Ernie Ferrer, moved into his spot. And so they're getting ready to have an election there.
Right.
And Ernie's been on his team for, well, he was there before Eric was.
Right.
And I think all of those positions are really important. I mean, we may be small town USA, but we need everyone to participate because it's important.
Yeah,
to our health.
I've had a lot of candidates on the seat in the last few days due to the election for this senator election and all that. And there's one common thing they all say, if a voter doesn't vote, it eventually will catch up to them, and they wonder, why did it go wrong? And that's because, in my view, and many of the other candidates, it's the view that things actually starts catching up to you if you don't participate and vote. A lot of time with low voter participation, we get the wrong people in and all that. So I think it's super, super, super important.
Yes, we have incredible parks, and we want to manage those. We don't want to just throw money into them. That may not necessarily be the best thing.
Right.
But we can encourage events to take place in those parks.
Right.
Some of our parks maybe don't have toys, but they would be great for like a recreational event for like soccer. The Red Francis Park would be a great place to set up and do like a pickleball, have a tournament there. We have the new pickleball courts up at Hawthorne Park. There it was part of the old tennis court. So we've got really good things in each one. We have some parks that would be really good to do like a bike event in, where they do stunts. They jump from rocks to rocks. We have some of those. We have one park that would be ideal for that. So trying to get people to get out, be motivated, and use the parks is really, I think, good. We also have like our lakes. We acquired those, and I've been out there during the summer on the beach, and I've enjoyed the sand, and it's really is picturesque. I've stopped some of the people and just asked them, so what do you think of the beach here and the lake?
Right.
And one man said, man, this is Tahoe away from Tahoe. And he said, look at that view. He says, that's beautiful. And I said, it is beautiful. During the summer, we'll have all summer long, we'll probably have over 1,000 people staying at the lake. It goes way up high, 1,300 or so, and so that's a really good use of one of our. Well, it's just a beautiful resource,
Right.
and then you have dripping springs where, bass fishing. I mean, you can't get better than that. It's really picturesque. And then we have, another thing that we need to recognize as a great resource for Okmulgee is our airport.
Right.
We have a lot going on out there. We have Covington Air. We have projected. We have a new terminal that may go in out there. We've already been put on the, if you might say, the timeline to make those things happen.
Right.
And that's positioned because that's going to happen because we're positioned for grants to achieve some of those things. So it's a TIF district, so all the improvements that we have out there really kicks back towards education in our community. So there's several things that we have going for us. We even have prime land that would be ideal for retail, especially on the North District across on the south side of Fairground Road.
Right.
We have a retail area that's being platted right now that's going to be released and opened up soon. That's right behind Ford, Harlan Ford, going down to the Holiday Inn. And then to the west of there, we have a great piece of land that was the old refinery, and 50 years later, it was redeemed. And so we're looking for some companies to come in there. There is a railroad spur there, I believe, and so there's a lot of development that can take place there.
Right.
Plus, we have the older industrial park on the south side over by, I believe that's Monroe. So, so much going on in Okmulgee, and I'm really glad to be part of it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I really don't have a whole lot more questions for you. But since we are so close to the election, you can take a minute and address the voters and
Okay.
and do what you think is right.
Well, I just want to say, please get out and vote. That's really the key thing. Of course, I'd want you to support me as we have done, I think, quite well the last 3 years, and even my terms that I've served as a councilman in Ward 2. I think we want to keep moving forward, and those connections that I've developed with the INCOG board in Tulsa and some of the key people who make decisions in our community, I think there's just a lot more to do. And so I would like that opportunity to do that. So please consider supporting me on Tuesday, February the 11th. We definitely want to continue looking at the housing situation. We want to look at how do we move forward as we have staff members who have been in our who've been running our city for years and years. At some point, some of those are going to retire. We're going to need to replace them. And so hopefully we can have the cross-training going on, and I'm committed that our city clerk and also our city manager they're already taking steps to make that happen. So, but we want to see those things continue to blossom as we move forward and have an employment. We have some of the best insurance and retirement plan offered by small town Oklahoma.
Right.
So that's definitely something we're thinking about when coming to work for us. So anyhow, thank you for your vote, and we'll plan to have a watch party on the 11th, and
Right.
that's going to be at the 6th Street Hub from 6 to about 7:30 or so, and we'll look forward to shaking some hands with some folks and thank them for their support. So thank you very much.
All right.
And thank you, Shel.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yep.
And we'll see you soon again, and good luck on the 11th.
Very good.
All right.
Thank you very much.
God bless everybody.